Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Face Palm Sunday, the segment on the internet where we respond to, well, videos on the internet. And today is a special episode because it is a blast from the past. We're visiting someone who I haven't talked about, much less even remembered up until recently, in over 2.5, almost 3 years. She made a video recently on free speech and censorship, and today we're going to respond to it.
Hey guys, so today I thought I would discuss censorship. Ooh, big topic.
Yes, free speech and censorship is a massive topic, one that I'm a very large advocate of, and I'm very, very passionate about. I'm a big advocate for free speech and no censorship.
It's been everywhere recently, from PewDiePie to the LGBT things to Milo and to my personal life, where I will, on occasion, block a lad. Truthfully, I don't really block as many people anymore, but why not? Why not? Sometimes you just wanna. The thing is, this feels like the most obvious video I've ever had to make, but somehow people just aren't getting it. So here we are. Let's start with PewDiePie and Milo. I am not trying to paint them with the same brush because nope, different people, different situations. But
you're right that they're different people, different situations, but in terms of people wanting them off of YouTube, wanting them not to have a channel, not wanting them to have any ability to speak or make YouTube videos, it's kind of the same. The same people whining about PewDiePie making a Nazi joke are the same people who are literally destroying property at universities because Milo's speaking at a university that they don't want him to speak at, so they destroy public property, thus keeping him so he can't actually speak.
the situations do have things in common, so we're going to discuss that. PewDiePie made some anti-Semitic jokes, which I just don't like as a sentence in 2017, but that's just me. And Milo has been consistently awful for a very long time. A lot of people are saying that them being denied book deals and TV shows and public speaking positions is an attack on free speech, which, spoiler, it isn't.
It is an attack on free speech if you claim that you are for free speech and then you don't hold to, well, your stance on free speech. What a lot of people like you, Fiona, don't understand is that free speech protects hate speech. Free speech, the Constitution, the First Amendment, protects people's unpopular opinion. It is a fundamental right. It is ingrained in our culture for several hundred years. The Constitution was designed to protect unpopular speech. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. There's a lot of things that I do not agree with Milo, but I will always defend his fundamental right to be able to voice his opinion and speak at a college or a university if that college or university wants him to speak. What a lot of people also don't seem to understand is that when a college accepts public money from people who pay their taxes like me and you, that college university becomes an institution. That institution cannot discriminate based upon people's personal beliefs. Milo had a book deal. That book company that had that deal with him said that they value free speech, they value an exchange of ideas. But that was soon proven wrong when they pulled their book deal. And of course, if they want to give money to somebody and they don't want to give money to somebody, that's their prerogative. If they don't want to give money to somebody who has a certain stance on an issue, they don't have to do that. I get that. In the same way, advertisers don't need to, if advertisers don't want to advertise on my YouTube videos because I talk about why I am against capital punishment or for capital punishment, those advertisers don't need to put ads on my videos. That's within their right to do so. But again, you had a book company that claims that they're for free speech. We have reached a scary point where colleges and universities no longer care about the exchange of ideas, but they only care about one side of the narrative. And personally, I think colleges and universities should be sharing two sides of the narrative, two sides of the coin, because that's what education is about, exchanging ideas and perspectives that oppose one another so people can decide and be educated. That's the whole purpose of an education. If you're growing up being taught one thing and one thing only, I grew up being taught one thing and one thing only, and that was creationism and religion. I was never taught the other side. I never was taught the exchange of ideas and how there's things that conflict and contradict what I believe and why I might be wrong on an issue. If education is not about exchanging of ideas at schools and universities, what the fuck are these universities and colleges doing? They are doing a disservice to the educational system in the United States of America, and my money, my taxes are going towards nothing except a school that only wants to teach one side. And if a school only teaches one side, it's not a school, it's a cult. It's a flawed educational institution that doesn't care about education, it cares about itself. And thankfully, not a whole lot of universities and schools have done that yet in the United States of America. We have a few, but there's still a lot of universities that really are open to the exchange of ideas and value free speech. And to the few universities that still do that and are holding to that value, I commend you. You are incredible.
the thing about free speech is that it's actually just about what you can say. But also on that note, in a lot of countries, free speech actually excludes hate speech, but we're not going to get into that. Free speech protects your right to say what you want, but it doesn't entitle you to be able to speak at a university or have your own TV show. Free speech doesn't entitle you to be paid to say certain things, it just means that you won't get arrested for saying them. For example, right now, I could say, Trump is a bit of a dick. If that statement caused me to face legal ramifications, then yes, that is an attack on free speech. But if Trump University or any place doesn't want to pay me to say that, that's fine. That's not an attack on free speech.
I'm just gonna post this here. Free speech does protect hate speech, you idiot.
Except, like, it actually doesn't in every other country.
Yep, Americans need to learn that their precious constitution, which most of them don't understand anyway, doesn't apply the world over. And it's true, Fiona. I don't know why you're attempting to talk about an issue where you clearly don't understand how America is unique in the sense where it does protect speech that is unpopular.
Oh, my arms are so long. Oh, they never end. Disney and Maker Studios dropping PewDiePie doesn't mean that they're against free speech, it just means that they don't want to be actively supporting somebody who says things that don't align with their views.
It actually had nothing to do with aligning with their views. It had to do with a journalist literally going to the company and saying, look what he said, look what he said, what are you gonna do? When big media companies are pressured into a corner, they do what they gotta do because they're being pressured to do it, not because it's a rational decision. I can guarantee you that networks, YouTube networks, don't give a shit if I make a joke about a Nazi or a Jew. But when you go to an advertiser, a network that involves itself with advertising, and you pressure an advertising company to say, look, you're a bad person for supporting someone who says a Nazi joke, and then taking their ability to make an income off of that, that is a fight on free speech.
And that's fine. Say what you want, but if you make jokes about anti-Semitism, there might be some backlash. As an aside, as somebody who didn't watch Scare PewDiePie Season 1 and probably wouldn't have watched Scare PewDiePie Season 2, I do think it sucks that the show was cancelled because it wasn't just him who was punished, a lot of people worked on that show. Next up is blocking someone or even, gasp, reporting a video censorship. Again, nope, it isn't. My first brush with being accused of censorship was when I blocked somebody who was sending his audience after me.
Apologies, my camera died when I was filming this, and no, I didn't accuse you of being for censorship because you blocked me on Twitter. I don't care if you block me, anyone blocks me. I'm not gonna call someone anti-free speech because they blocked someone on Twitter. It's your own personal Twitter account. If you don't want to see somebody or you want to interact with somebody, that's your choice to do so. I see no problem with doing that. People were saying that you're anti-free speech and for censorship is because you tweeted at me saying not to use the N-word in a quote because I was quoting my neighbors at the time. My neighbors were outside my door screaming the N-word at each other, N-I-G-G-A, calling each other, what's going on, nigga. That's literally all they did for like fucking 15 minutes straight. And I quoted them in quotation marks in my Twitter post, and then you come out of the blue, Miss White Girl all of a sudden. Not that there's anything wrong with being white, but you seem to love the emphasis of white people. Mr. Repzion, dude, you should always censor the N-word. Do I need to jog your memory exactly what you told me? Fiona, I have never sent an audience after you or anyone. If I recall, no, I do recall. Very, very clear, I recall that I went out of my way to not even link your video in the description box, like I normally do with all videos, because I had a little bit of empathy and sympathy. A very little smidge of empathy and sympathy. Obviously, that's changed now. Mr. Bones, stop. Jesus. Like, you want to talk about someone who probably will send people after you? It's probably Mr. Bones back there. He keeps saying, see you next Tuesday, over and over again when I'm trying to film this video. And I haven't called you a cunt once. But Mr. Bones over there, Jesus Christ, man.
Baby's first hate video. Despite getting my fair share of hate online because I was going through a very, very angry feminist stage, I actually hadn't blocked anyone before then. I remember when I blocked him, I was accused of censorship, and truthfully, I actually thought at the time that blocking him would block anybody who was mentioning his name because I didn't want to see any of the things that his audience were sending me. Oh no, she lives in an echo chamber. No, she just doesn't want death threats every half hour. The reason I blocked him is because I was going through a lot at the time and I had to deal with some certain things in my personal life, and so I was like, I'll block him now and then unblock him later when I have the time and like emotional capacity to deal with this. Is that a crime? No. Is it censorship? Also no. Because it boils down to the fact that not wanting to hear what somebody has to say isn't the same thing as censoring them.
Yona, you're absolutely right. I 100% agree with you, except I have to ask you a valid question here. Do you support the people who go to universities and destroy public property and who make death threats and all these different threats to Milo when he is speaking at a university? Because a lot of the universities don't want to have Milo, not because of what he has to say, but because of the people, the protesters, although they're not considered protesters to me. They attempt to vandalize the college itself. They will do anything they can to make sure that he is not allowed to speak when the university or the clubs have paid him to speak. But you're right in the sense that, not wanting to hear what someone has to say is not censorship. But it becomes censorship when you try to silence someone from being able to speak their opinion, their perspective, their narrative that's differing from yours. That's an attack on free speech. That is censorship. Especially when they do illegal things to attempt to get him to shut up.
Say what you want. It doesn't mean that everybody has to listen, especially because a lot of the time it isn't constructive criticism, it's just mindless hatred. At least that's been my experience. Additionally, is reporting a video censorship? And what if that video is taken down? When I had my experience with a channel much larger than me making a video about me, I tried to get it taken down. Oh, shock, horror. That's because I was receiving multiple death threats and rape threats every single day. Probably every single hour.
I'll say it again for the 100th time. I do not condone or support anyone, whether they're a fan of mine or not, going out of their way to make death threats to you, to make, to go out of their way to say deplorable things like I want to rape you, whether it be rape, death, whatever, any type of physical threat to you. I will never support anybody who says that. However, to try to get my video removed because of what other people do doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when I never linked your original video or used your name. Obviously, that's changed now, because quite frankly, I don't give a shit. The sympathy and empathy card that I once had 2.5 years ago doesn't really exist now. Of course, I should say a public announcement: do not send this person death threats. Do not physically threaten this person to harm them. I do not support anybody who does that, who watches me or who doesn't watch me. Not that it's really gonna matter because, obviously I can control thousands of people on the internet, right? I can control what they individually write on their keyboards because I have the power to do that.
My mental health back then wasn't really great, and I was borderline suicidal before all that happened, so I just didn't want to hear how people wanted to kill me. People were going to extreme lengths to find my address so that they could hurt me, including paying my friends to hand over my address. Sidebar, shout out to the friends who took the money and then gave them the wrong address.
I find that a bit disturbing that you have friends who would willingly lie to someone and steal their money. You might want to rethink your friendships if that's the types of friends you're associating with. I don't know why your friends couldn't just say, no, I'm not going to give you this person's address, but no, I'm going to give you an address and lie to you and take their money. Like, morally and ethically, dude, that's fucked. I'm sorry. Stealing money from somebody is not okay, ever.
But it was a lot to handle, and some of the hate was coming from his Twitter account, but the majority of the stuff that I was getting was stemming from this one video. So yeah, I tried to get it taken down. Call me an attacker of free speech.
Fiona, you're an attacker on free speech. Hopefully, you don't try to get this video taken down, but I should clarify. You were an attacker of free speech then. Are you still an attacker of free speech now? But all in all, I don't wish any ill will towards this individual. I just think that she's deeply incorrect and has no understanding of the Constitution in the United States of America, something that Australia and London doesn't have. So you have to understand, Fiona, that the US is unique in the sense that we protect hate speech. I don't even use the word hate speech because to an extent, I don't even believe hate speech actually exists. I believe that you can be racist, there's racist speech. I wouldn't call it hate speech. Hate speech is such a vague term that I commonly see thrown out towards everything for the most part. If you have an opinion that somebody doesn't like, I've been accused of having hate speech because I have a differing opinion than somebody else. And that's not hate speech. I don't even know what hate speech is by definition, but what I know is that hate speech is defended in the USA. That's why we have it set up. And universities and colleges need to be open to free speech, even if it's unpopular. The moment we take free speech out of our laws, our culture will be in a frenzy. And quite frankly, I don't think that's going to happen because we've been, arguing and trying to change the Constitution and First Amendments and all those little policy things that we have set up for a long, long time. And so far, that's never happened, and I don't think it's going to, because I think the First Amendment and the Constitution that we have is set up to be an excellent piece of law that we have set in the US, which makes the US not only unique, but it makes us a very valuable country in terms of what we stand for overall. Not a lot of countries can have the the privileges that we in America have, with the ability of having protected speech, even if it's not popular. And that's something that you and I and everyone should value. Whether or not you agree with those narratives or opinions, if you don't value it, you don't value free speech.